The shame. That feeling when you check your bank account and something in you flinches. When someone asks about your finances and you change the subject. When you sit across from a financial advisor and feel like a student who didn't do the reading. You think that shame means you failed somewhere. It doesn't. Financial literacy was deliberately excluded from school curricula across the world. Not by accident. A financially literate population negotiates better, borrows less, and questions more. None of those outcomes benefit financial institutions. Only 57 countries out of 195 have mandatory financial education in schools. The ones that do have measurably lower household debt levels. The shame you feel for not knowing is the intended outcome of a system that never planned to teach you. You were never supposed to know this. The confusion was the product. The terror. That physical tightening in your chest when the balance drops too low. The way your brain goes quiet and useless at exactly the moment you need it most. You think that is weakness. It isn't. Princeton and Harvard measured it. Financial scarcity consumes 13 IQ points, the cognitive equivalent of losing a full night's sleep. A brain in scarcity terror cannot plan long-term, cannot negotiate effectively, cannot imagine alternatives to the situation it is trapped inside. 61% of Americans identify money as their primary life stressor. The banks that hold their money reported record profits in the same year. Your fear is not irrational. It is a feature. Someone profits from it every single month, and the system that keeps your balance just low enough to trigger this state does so because a cognitively impaired population is a compliant population. The exhaustion, the feeling of being stuck inside a 9-to-5 with no real path out. Wanting to build something, anything, but arriving home with nothing left. Not energy, not time, not thought. You think that is a discipline problem? It isn't. The 40-hour workweek was not designed around human well-being or productivity. It was designed around factory output in the 1800s, and it was formalized when it became clear that exhausted workers don't organize, don't build alternatives, don't have the cognitive bandwidth to question the system they are inside. The average worker is genuinely productive for less than 3 hours of their 8-hour workday. The other 5 hours exist to keep you present, exhausted, and dependent on the next paycheck. You were given just enough time to survive, not enough to escape. The dream, not of being rich, of being safe, of having a problem, a real one, a broken car, a medical bill, an unexpected cost, and knowing it will not destroy everything. That is not greed. Research consistently shows that the primary desire behind wealth accumulation is not luxury, it is security, the psychological freedom to have a problem without it threatening survival. 56% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency without borrowing. The median household in most developing economies has less than 3 months of expenses saved. Both figures have barely moved in 20 years, despite significant economic growth. The dream is not unreasonable. The distance to it was engineered. A population permanently one emergency away from crisis does not have the psychological bandwidth to accumulate enough capital to leave the system. That is not a side effect. That is the point. The confusion. Always trying to understand money and always feeling like you are missing something. Like everyone else was handed a manual you never received. You think that means you are not smart enough for this. You are not. Financial complexity is not natural. Simple systems were made complex deliberately. Because complexity creates dependency on intermediaries who charge for translation. Every financial product that requires an expert to explain it generates fees for that expert. The average financial product prospectus in the U.S. is written at a postgraduate reading level. It is legally required to be provided to every retail investor. It was never intended to be understood by them. The language of finance, derivatives, hedging, compounding, liquidity, was built to exclude ordinary participation. You do not feel stupid because you are. You feel stupid because the language was designed to make you feel that way. The confusion is not a gap in your education. The confusion is the business model, the feeling of being behind, like the game started without you. Like everyone else is further along and you cannot identify the moment you fell back. You did not fall back. The rules changed. Between 1970 and 2000, the 3 pillars of middle-class wealth building, home ownership, pension security, stable employment, all became significantly harder to access through deliberate policy decisions. In 1970, the average house cost 3 times the average annual salary. In 2026, it costs 8 to 12 times, depending on the city. The salary advice did not change. The ratio did. The generation that built wealth under the old rules told the next generation to follow the same rules. But the rules had already changed. You are not behind because you failed. You are behind because you were handed a map to a city that no longer exists. The powerlessness? Watching inflation eat your savings. Watching interest rates rise and your rent follow. Watching decisions made somewhere far away arrive in your bank account without warning. You think that is just how the world works. It isn't. Approximately 300 people, central bank governors, finance ministers, institutional investors, make the monetary decisions that determine the purchasing power of 8 billion people. When the U.S. Federal Reserve raises interest rates, mortgage costs in India increase within months. When oil-producing nations cut supply, a family's grocery bill in Bangalore or Chicago rises within weeks. The 2022 Federal Reserve rate hike cycle transferred an estimated $2.1 trillion in wealth from debtors to creditors globally within 18 months. No population voted for this. Most did not know it was happening. The decisions that determine your financial survival are made in rooms you will never enter. That is not an accident. That is architecture. The frustration, wanting to build something meaningful, knowing exactly what you would do with the time and the energy and the resources, but arriving at the end of every week with none of them left. You think that is a personal failure. It is the most deliberately engineered state of all. A population with financial security has time to think, to build, to organize, to create alternatives to existing systems. A population in financial exhaustion does not. The relationship between financial stress and reduced civic participation, reduced entrepreneurship, and reduced creative output is documented and consistent. Entrepreneurship rates in countries with stronger social safety nets, where financial failure does not mean personal catastrophe, are consistently higher than in countries without them. Security enables risk. Insecurity prevents it. Your dream is not too big. Your runway was deliberately kept too short. 8 feelings: shame, terror, exhaustion, the dream, confusion, being behind, powerlessness, frustration. You felt all of them. You were told they meant something was wrong with you. They don't. They mean the system is working exactly as designed. Now that you know who designed it, what do you do with that knowledge?